Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm a little bit late. It's been a... Hello. It's been a mixed kind of day, so I apologize in advance for being a little bit later today. On the level of good news, I see that here on the, let's see, on the level of good news with YouTube, it says here, congrats, you have early access to YouTube Studio Beta. That's kind of cool. Because I know that's something that they rolled out as a test. And they asked the YouTuber universe out there to see if anyone was interested. And I put in right away because I want to know what it's all about, right? Because it's all about trying to figure out and sort out what new things that they want to roll out and what happens. And so, yeah, definitely there. Hey, Michael, welcome, welcome. Also, too, don't forget about the survey for the merch as well. For we have a survey out there on Survey Monkey or Chimp Monkey or Survey Monkey or something like that, some kind of monkey for merchandise. So we're looking at doing that. You're not sure if you have access. Okay, well, if I have access, then you have access. Because if you're probably connecting through my channel, then you probably do. Oh yeah, I know. All right. Hang on. I was forgetting something. I knew something was missing off my screen. Yes. But you can also check on your channel too, Ariel, and see if they are offering it. They should be. I think they're offering it across the board. I don't think I was the only one that they did that. You know what I mean? All right. I do. Except it's on that side, not to the front of me. So yes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So thank you for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a crazy week. This is the week that this is the last in Seven Moonshadow on the East Coast until I'm filming and streaming and broadcasting from the West Coast. I should probably take care of a couple of things, shouldn't I? I know, huh? This is what happens when you, okay. You know what? Life is messy. This is the level of having to make sure, okay, let's adapt. Okay, we'll move this. How about that? Is that better? Seriously, this is what happens when this is life. This is life. Unless you have a team of many, this is what you get. So yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. How are we looking? We looking okay? So this is actually, it's kind of good that it's actually good that you're seeing some of the live shows still on the channel, because you see where it's really, how it really works. You know, there is magic in the polish on making it a little nicer and everything, but ultimately it is what it is. So we're looking at a small little troop of things. As you can tell, I have itineraries up. I have all these other things, which is what's in the works, what's in my mind, all that good stuff, all at the same time. So I want to thank everybody for being here ahead of time. I appreciate all of you being here. And as always, we have multiple things going on at once simultaneously, and this is part of what, you know, life and well, all of our lives are pretty much like that. So today's topic is very interesting, and the reason with our lives being so busy, part of it, you know, is just because of just the insanity of it all. We don't have much of a choice but to multitask. So ultimately, this is what brought the topic. I was having, and it's interesting too, because as of, you know, I get a lot of inspiration from people I speak to in conversations I have, because a lot of times that's the pulse. That's kind of like the heartbeat and pulse of what people are thinking, whether it be one person or 1,000 people. So a lot of times what ends up happening is, if I'm having a conversation with more than one person that are unrelated, don't know each other, and the fact that we're talking about the same thing and I didn't bring it up, that usually means that it is a good topic to get in with inside the Moonshadow. And also too, I'd like to say hello to some of the new peeps as well. Old friends, not that they're old, just they've been friends a long time, that have popped into the broadcasts also. So a lot of the topics that come in do and are intuited, and sometimes they come up the right time, the right moment, the right topic comes up. So feel free, definitely come up and say hello in the chat, so I know who you are, so I can give you a shout out and say hello. So that's another big plus about being here. Unfortunately, this is the only thing about this social media platform as opposed to others. You can't necessarily see who is popping in, but it's always a pleasure to see people popping in. And I probably could have used a third cup of coffee today. Probably so, because it's been that kind of. Oh, and also too, I want to thank everyone for their well wishes, and their good juju, despite not fully knowing what I've been dealing with and going through. But I appreciate that. I may or may not divulge. I'm still not sure about that, but I appreciate all the well wishes regarding stuff that's going on behind the scenes in my life. So I appreciate that. So yes, we have Michael in the house. Thank you for being here. We have Ariel, and we have a third mystery person in here somewhere. And I appreciate you all being here. So, on to today's topic. Let's get to it, shall we? I'm not going to tease you guys this time like I teased you guys last week. And you know, I'll tell you this: it's interesting how quickly time flies. Where all of a sudden let me see here. How do I do this way? Okay, I'm going to do this. How's that? We're shifting it over. I look like I have a halo, don't I? Look at that. No, I'm kidding. Well, the horns have to hold the halo. But anyway. So yes, today's topic is actually an interesting one. And without going into further ado, yeah, talking about, Ariel saying divine light, let's say, the moon. And also, too, I've been told that the drum behind me also very much looks like a moon. So I had this weird thing about not painting it because I wanted to paint it with an image. But go figure, I didn't end up painting it because something stopped me. And sure enough, it looks like a moon. So henceforth, why I'm not. I don't think I'll be painting it. But yes. So without further ado, well, let's get to this show. Oh, and it's 4:35. 4:35, by the way. Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow, an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, and CHI-vangelist with over 30 years of experience in the healing field internationally. My intention here is to empower others so we can all combined be the change and the light to dispel darkness and dispel the shadow of the world today. So the more we do as each person individually, the more we can accomplish as a group, as a tribe out there in the world. So it's something where it's been a labor of love for me, and also it's been trouble. It's been trouble because honestly, in the grand scheme of things, to go up against organized anything, it's not easy. It takes a lot of cojones. It takes a lot of will. It takes a lot of strong will to be able to look at the face of adversity and say, no, I will not accept it. Now, that being said, I want to give shout outs and props to all those people that are really looking in the face of adversity and doing things out of their comfort zones, out of their normal comfort, their boxes of comfort, and really putting out there the fact of saying, you know what, no, I will not let this happen. I'm going to do my best to change it. And this is part of being a light bringer and being a shining soul in the world today, because we so much need that. So I thank you all for doing that and for utilizing your social media for your posts, for sharing posts, for retweeting, sharing, pushing that out there, because your message may be the message heard. So be quite aware of the messages that you're putting out there, because, people are listening, whether you like it or not. So be aware of what kind of message you put out there in social media. Because if it's not part of the solution, then it's part of the problem. So be aware and either make change or watch it happen, but I'm a big subscriber of make it happen, do something to make it happen. Positive change. Now, today's topic was something that is near and dear to me, because it's been in conversation with me and myself and other people lately. And of course, having the pulse of conversation and being in the pulse of conversation, it's been spoke about enough unrelatedly through other people that I was like, well, this has to be brought up. So first of all, I've used this expression and this saying quite a bit to clients I've worked with, people I've worked with, and people I've spoken to. And I've said, quite often, I've said, well, if you think you can't do it, then you're right. If you think you can do it, then you're right. If you think that you can't help the situation, then you're right. Now, this is the basis of the topic for today. Reason being, it's really all about the power of mind. You are what you think. And this is something where, going back, where a lot of times we go through our day, and sometimes, and I have been notorious for this as well at times, because you can't be strong every minute of the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a level of futility where you look at things and say, okay, you know what, I just can't. And there are times that you have to let go. There are times you have to detach, as we've spoken about in previous broadcasts. But in this case and in this topic this week, it's really about the power of mind and how you can shift that mindset into something more productive. So you are what you think. And it's really, really important. Because if you sit there and if you think about this, and this is a little example. And I've done this little experiment before, and it was very profound in how it kind of came about. Because one day I thought of one word, just one word, and I kept on saying the word to myself. And then I said the word so often to myself that the word no longer had any meaning. Right? So now this is just a little experiment, and you can go ahead and try this at home, because this is something that is very, very uniquely different. Now, if you take one word, any word whatsoever, and you repeat it to yourself multiple times, you could literally think the thought of the word of what it really is, and literally just wipe it out. Now, granted, it wasn't a permanent type thing, but the point was, in my mind, I went ahead and thinking about that. I thought about it until it no longer had a meaning. Now, these are crazy things sometimes that I think about. Reason being, I believe in expansion. I believe in always being an unlimited being. I've always believed in putting out there more than, doing 101% all the time, the best you can. Some days you're not going to, some days you will. But a lot of times it's the power of your mind and the power of your will that actually gets you out there and gets you push further from beyond. There are people, as a matter of fact, there was a post I recently shared on social media that there was a woman that was paraplegic. Okay, she is paralyzed on all 4 limbs. Can't feel anything from her neck down. Now, she wanted to surf. Now what happens? She wanted to surf, and she was connected with someone that was a surfer. So what did they do? What did they plan? What did they put together? He literally did tandem surfing with her. With help, they put her on his back. They literally duct taped her to his back. And then he went ahead and surfed with her on his back. Now, at this point, not only is she surfing, but she's also diving tandemly as well, like scuba diving and stuff. So this is a big part of it. Now, what makes this woman more amazing than everyone else. Her sense of will and the power of herself, of her own mind, of her own spirit saying, I want to do this and I will do it. And as I said in the beginning of the broadcast, she's right. Because if you can do it, you're right. And if you can't do it, you're also right. So it's very unique. It's a unique mindset. Now, there are things that you can and cannot do. There are things that you're going to be limited to do and limited not to do. True. But it does not mean that you can't get close to that or part of that or remotely close to this. Because a lot of times I've seen quite a lot of people going into, I've heard stories about people going in remission from cancer, from aggressive cases of cancer. I've seen, so many different and heard so many different experiences and stories about how people have overcome the odds. And a lot of it is because their mind, they just would not give up, or they would not accept it as fate. Not completely. Now, also too, as Ariel is sharing, she's sharing that it's so important to have a supportive group of people around you. And it's true, because looking at this woman, for example, in the case of being the paraplegic woman, and then she wanted to surf without a good support team behind her, or extended family, or whatever you want to call it, without people saying, yes, we want you to surf too, it would be that much harder. So this is a big part of it. So now, a lot of people are very familiar with the fact that I tend to be very unruly and rebellious, and I'm not going to disprove that or admit otherwise. I tend to be quite unruly. But the thing is, too, that unruliness is also paid in many dividends as far as getting further than I would have if I accepted the facts of people saying, no, you can't. From one experience happening where at the time someone almost challenged me that I couldn't fit into a parking space, and I did. And I looked at them and I said, yeah, look at that. Don't ever tell me I can't do it. To the point of, one social media post that came up that it was just, I had to share it, was underestimate me. Go ahead. Go ahead. Underestimate me, right? Underestimate me. So, but ultimately, this is the bottom line. With the power of the self and the power of the mind, you can almost achieve almost everything and anything. So this is why today I wanted to talk to you about the power of thought, the power of mind, the power of being able to push yourself further. Whether it's a phobia, whether it's a trigger, as we've spoken about before, whether it's something that's limiting you in any way, shape, or form, all of it, you have the absolute ability to be able to make that change. Oh, and the post was, thanks to the trusty power of magic and television, it's underestimate. See, I don't even know how to say it right now. This is the point, people. Honestly, underestimate me. That would be fun. There you go. And that's the truth. Now, interestingly enough, the universe has a way of putting in your vision, into your periphery, things that you need to pay attention to. So this is why a big part of when I suggest for you to always look around, always be aware, always be vigilant about messages and omens and things that are around you, because your intuition and the universe has a way of telling you things or showing you new things or bringing up new things that you need to look at. Whether it be having a bunch of spiders crawling around saying, hey, something has been caught in your web. There's a new situation around you that has a delicate connection to you and who you are. 2, seeing somebody you haven't seen in a long time. Also, too, and even ironically, too, there have been broadcasts, last week being one of them, where I had mentioned someone without any intention of knowing if they were in the broadcast, and I received a message later that they were in the broadcast, and I haven't spoken to that person in a little while. It's been a while. So it's interesting how the universe has a funny way of showing you answers, challenging you in a way to make you think about what it has planned for you. Now, granted, it's not going to show you a whole plan, right? So I can guarantee you that. It's not going to give you the whole plan. It's not going to tell you what's always happening. It's not going to say, hey, oh, by the way, in 6 months, you're going to blah, blah, blah. No. I can do that for other people, but the universe does not do it with me. It's kind of like a cryptic fortune cookie, and my guides have a big sense of humor. So, that being said, it's quite interesting, the challenges that I receive almost on a daily basis to say, hey, if you thought that was fun, well, here comes something else. We'll give you a curveball here. We're going to do this. We're going to put you on point for that. All of it. So this is what the power of mind can do, because ultimately your mind is truly like a computer. It's like a PC. One of the first things that I learned about computers way back when I was a much younger and much less gray moon was the fact of garbage in, garbage out. They were speaking about programming back then. If you put a garbage program in, you're going to get a garbage program out. You're not going to get anything productive out of it. Right? So looking at it from that perspective is the same thing on what you think. Do not own the negativity that is going in, or the negative programming that's inside you. And this has been culminating over the past few weeks in what we've spoken about, and also what's culminated over what's happened in the world today. Right now we have things that were buried, not gone, not non-existent, but buried. And now it is back on the surface, and it's showing its ugly face. Things like racism, things like segregation, things like nationalism, white nationalism, which is a new term for white power. All these things are happening in the world today. So it's all the more reason why we need to really step forward and think about what we can do to make change ourselves. And with the power of mind and the power of what we feel and what we think, again, you're right. If you give up, you're right. So that's an important thing. Yes. Now, also, too, Ariel is saying gray moon just means that you're moving out of your new moon phase into the full moon phase. Well, that could be good and bad if you really think about it. The full moon also means there's going to be an ending, and there's going to be another new moon. So there's also changes there. And I can't get much grayer than I am now. So, but yes, it's something where there's a lot of change on the horizon, for sure. Absolutely. Now, how can you actually focus on your mind? And how can you focus with the power of your thoughts, of the power of your mind, how to make things change? How can you make the change? Now, first of all, anything that I've given to you, any kind of moon site, any kind of information is just guideline. Not everything is concrete in the world today. So this is something we need to think about. Not everything is fact. Not everything is concrete. They say even death. The only things that are absolute are death and taxes, and even that is not absolute. So even that I can debate a little bit. Now, the mind, since the mind is such a powerful tool, it's something where you can really look at to see what you want to do and how far you want to go. As an example, there are many times that there are activities that I just didn't want to do it. And sometimes when you go ahead and you just start making that first step, that beginning movement, that one first move, and then all of a sudden it changes everything. Then all of a sudden it's not so hard anymore. So that first baby step sometimes is the step to making positive change. And sometimes it's only a thought. This is why I bring up the power of mind. Because ultimately we are all those pieces, all those etheric bodies put together in one miraculous piece, in one miraculous body, in one miraculous identity. So this is something where putting your mind to something, having your goals, and not letting anything stop you from getting there. Now, granted, as in previous broadcasts, we'd spoken about failure being a success, and I do believe that thoroughly. But also, too, if you haven't really pushed yourself, if you haven't really gone beyond your comfort zone, then you don't really know how far you can go. You don't know how unlimited you could be. You don't know who is around the other corner. What type of you are once you turn the corner. And I can say a lot of the work that I have done throughout the years has been simply that as well. So this is just passing on the same experience and information, moving forward from going from that. Because there are a lot of times that we feel that things are just a lost cause. Sometimes we feel that things are just not going to work out. They might not work out the way you think. And again, being open-minded and using the power of your own will and thinking, well, there's something good may come out of it, or there may be a lesson out of this. It may be an easier lesson. It may be a harder lesson. Accepting the fact of there being a lesson is a big part of this as well. So this is also a big part of how moving forward in your life and moving forward on how you really think of the way things are in the world today, how you can make the change for yourself, and then again also make the change for others, because ultimately that's the grand design. That's the great mystery. What mark are you going to leave in the world? And all of us have a plan, whether it's our plan or somebody else's plan. Better off it being our plan or being part of the great plan as opposed to being victim to someone else's plan. So now, what can you do? What can you do? What are methods and techniques that you could go ahead and really connect with your inner mind to focus, to get yourself past adversity? One of the things it's a baby step, but knowing that this is temporary. Any moment it's temporary. Since we only have now, right this second, it's temporary. Nothing is absolute. And since nothing is absolute, we have the ability to make the change, to turn the corner, to make something different, because the decisions you make right now, presently, is what's going to affect tomorrow. So now looking at it from that perspective, what can you do today to make changes, to make a positive change towards tomorrow? Maybe shift your mindset. Maybe thinking that things can be worse. Maybe looking at it from a list perspective, pros and cons. All these things are ways and means to be able to really look at who you are now as a person, who you are now as a soul, who you are now as a spiritual being, experiencing a human existence, and moving forward to an unlimited spiritual being, which is our birthright. Now, granted, I know that this sounds kind of out there, and of course, your belief, always up to your belief system. You can imagine whether or not this is something where you believe or don't believe. I'm not going to criticize your belief system or how you believe. I'm just going to tell you that if energy cannot be created and destroyed, then guess what? Then we go forward. So now, power of mind. We spoke about triggers before. We spoke about getting rid of the power of the trigger, or the strength of the trigger. We can do the same thing with the power of mind, and this is why we're moving along in this broadcast regarding the power of mind. Almost any experience that I've had that I'm not going to say wasn't suitable, because it was a lesson in itself. It was brought to my attention. And when something is brought to your attention, you have to look at it, you have to see it, you have to analyze it a little bit. You have to look at every aspect of it. You have to look at every facet around it. And when you do that, then you're going to get answers. Because up until, I don't know the exact date, but up until, could be a blink of an eye, most people thought that this world was flat. They also thought that time was linear. Now, with the idea of different time zones, is it really linear? Something to think about. But ultimately, with the power of self and the power of mind, and knowing where you can go, how far you can go, who you are, where you're supposed to be, all of that is really, really important in how you can move forward on your path. It's a given. It's a given that tapping into our inner strength, and you have a lot of motivational speakers that will also talk about this. They'll talk about passion and drive and ambition. Tony Robbins is one of them. Very, Carolyn Mace and Wayne Dyer, may rest in peace. A lot of these people had gone through serious adversity, and they still put out their best authentic self. Now, how could they do that? Why can't we do that? Well, that's a moot question, because we can, and you will, if you want to. And again, if you don't, you're right. So this is a big part of it, is putting yourself out there and putting yourself in the position of being the driving force. Even if you don't know the destination, looking at the coping mechanism of how you go forward. And when you go looking, to say, look, I really do not see me owning this existence. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. In the world today, sometimes it could be kind of on the side of questioning your hope, questioning why, why are things happening the way they are? But ultimately, it's something where we, as bright souls as we are, we have the ability to move forward, think past it, move past it. Another possibility, another way of doing things is using affirmations. A lot of times I will use affirmations and use, I have taken this off, but, these are mala beads, these are Tibetan mala beads, right? So using affirmations and using a mantra and going through each bead and saying a mantra, repeating. Now, you remember in the beginning of the broadcast, I had mentioned about saying a word over and over and over again till it lost its meaning, where I didn't even know what the word was anymore because it didn't make sense, or taking the sense out of a word. This is the same thing, but being positive. It's in the positive aspect of things. Using affirmations and mantras to actually facilitate and make something more concrete. So looking at that from that perspective, you are what you think. So you are what you choose to think. So if you think that everything is going to get worse, you're right. If you think that you are limited and you're not going to go any further, you're right. But if you believe that there's a lot more for you, if you are meant to do more, I can guarantee you're probably right there too. Our imagination is incredibly powerful. Our mind is incredibly powerful. And in working with people doing hypnotherapy, you can have someone imagine that they have a green alien on their hand. You can imagine that they are, the greatest quarterback on the planet, the greatest boxer, the most successful supermodel, the smallest little creature. You could do a lot with the power of the mind. So if you can do that with such incredible strength and intensity, then you could also make change in your life as well. And this is something where it's very close. It's very close and near and dear to my heart. And the reason why I say this is because there is no, and even here, in complete transparency, challenges happen all the time. No one particularly has an easy life. And also, too, I want to send out good healing juju to a lot of, there are quite a few people here in the extended Inside with Moonshadow troop, family, tribe that are going through some severe adversity. So I want to make sure that I'm sending out some good healing juju to all of you out there. Precisely, we have a friend of mine in Las Vegas is going through a very difficult time. So I send good juju out to you. And also, you all know who you are. There's also someone right here in Little Rhodey that's I spoke to recently that's also having a difficulty with things, but you can do this. So keep up the good work and keep fighting the good fight. So this is also part of the power of mind, is the fact of pushing further than you've ever been. Because if you even make one baby step forward, then you're going to make things better. Even if it's by a little bit, by an increment. Another technique that you could utilize, and I've done this quite often, and I'll do this still to this day, when needed, is you're writing down a statement. A lot of times we write down statements all the time. We think statements all the time. And what is a statement? It ends in a period. There's no question of it. So when you go ahead and you write a statement and put a period on it, then the universe knows it as such, a statement. And they will reflect that right back to you. So now if you go ahead and put a statement on your bathroom mirror, you put a statement on your refrigerator. So say, for example, and you know, we're in a world of a lot of people wanting to drop a few pounds, I myself included. I've got a couple extra pounds I got to lose myself, right? So what can you do? You put a statement. You make a bold statement. For example, I am not my extra weight. Put that on a, you know, on a Post-it note. Slap it on your fridge. Slap it on your mirror. You could do that. I am not my illness. Because that's an effect. That's not necessarily who you are, right? You don't go through the world. You don't go through the world and say, hi, you know, I'm depression. No, you're not depression. I am Moonshadow. I'm not depression. I'm not heart disease. I'm not kidney disease. I'm not any of those things. That is just an experience that you're going through. And that, I think, is also a big part of what people go through in life. They own something, and it may not be for them to own. Since in our lives, a lot of situations are temporary, since we only have this moment, you can get past this moment by owning the fact that this is temporary, by owning the fact that this too shall pass. So now affirmations. So we went through affirmations. We went through working with looking at negative statements as opposed to positive ones. And again, also too, we have Ariel saying that, and also changing negative statements to a positive one. So you want to flip it on its head. That's a really important thing too. So, you know, as an example, what Ariel is saying here, instead of saying I'm not sad, you can say I'm happy. Now, I've got a little bit of an issue. I'm going to say a little bit of an issue with the expression "fake it till you make it." A little bit. I'm kind of still on the fence with that kind of scenario. However, I do believe that in looking at deep within yourself, you need to find that little seed. And if anyone has known me a while, they know about the little seed that I talk about. Holding on to that little seed, that little bit of yourself, that little part that you can put in ground, in fertile ground, and then grow and shine and be the best you can be, or be a better you, or reconstitute you. So this is really, really important. A lot of people don't always see that. A lot of people don't always realize that. But it's that little seed sometimes that holds you together. So flipping a negative statement to a positive one is also important. Now also too, something to be mentioned as well is there are a lot of people that are, and this happened to have been in a previous broadcast as well, about how we all have our inner critic, but we also have other critics as well. There's always someone out there that's going to tell you can't do something, or you won't because of their own insecurities. Now, you know what? This is something beyond you. Are you going to own what somebody else says that you can or cannot do? Now, even if you don't know if you can or cannot do it, then how can somebody else know? So this is why I say venture out, do something different, have an adventure, try something new. What's the worst thing that can happen? You don't do it again. So flipping a negative statement to a positive one is important. That's a way of doing it. Putting post-it notes or reminders. And if anyone is familiar with my social post, if you're following me on my social media, a lot of what I put up, it could be something as profoundly ridiculous as a kitten with a bow on its head, to new technology, to a profound statement, to just a statement saying, underestimate me. That can be fun. Or that will be fun. All of these things are meant for us to challenge ourselves to go further and go beyond what even we think ourselves are our own existence. So there are things, and this is where I go, some of my go-tos are people that have had incredible odds, people that were born without limbs, or people that had had such adversity that you would think they would never be able to make it. They would never be able to get further. They would never be able to be heard. And what happens? This miracle happens where if they couldn't see, they're blind, they can hear extremely well. Or if they can't hear, they can see extremely well. I remember reading a story about someone that was so into music and they were deaf. So they worked with it to change the frequency of the music so they can feel the frequency or the beats or the bass or the mid-range, and that's how they enjoyed music. They changed and reinterpreted music. Now, if in their mind, if they're in their own minds, if they didn't believe, I will be able to interpret music, I will be able to listen to music, I will be able to put myself past the fact that I can't hear, then they wouldn't have been able to do it. Like the person I mentioned previous, the woman that I think her name was Lena, I think it is. She's from England. The paraplegic woman that went surfing, tandem surfing. But this is all part of it. And sometimes when we are able to walk and talk and look in the mirror and brush our own teeth, sometimes we forget the little things. Sometimes we space out the little things. We space out the blessings that we do have. And it's always good to also remind ourselves of that, of the little blessings. So that's another thing of empowering the mind and being past your limitations as well, is remember the little things. The little things of what you really do have, what you really have that are in your periphery, what's in your life presently. That's also another way of looking past the adversity that you have. Now, of course, there are tons of books out there. There are tons of things you can do there. You know, you can go right here, like on YouTube. You can look for a lot of ways of reaching out and being able to get past your limited self. And I agree absolutely of being a student of life and moving forward and being past it and getting further. There will be a day where, and it's happening every day, we're getting closer and closer to that, the merging of machine, of biology and machine. I'm on the fence with that too. I don't know. Part of me thinks it'd be fantastic to Google in my mind and automatically get an immediate download, but I'm still wondering about that. You know, I'm thinking I'm waiting for 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. But I will say this, if I lost a limb and they said, hey, we want to hook you up with a cybernetic arm, I'd be so there. As long as it didn't hook up to the internet. Yeah, that's a scary thought. Oh, and by the way, thanks to my trusty producer, her name is Pascal Honore. Honore. She's the paraplegic in the surfing video. And if it's relatively over the past couple of days that I shared that. So definitely take a look at that. But her name is Pascal Honore. And she is quite a spirit. I'll tell you, it's things like that that really that really instill hope in me. Another post that I put out there was about these service dogs that were being trained to stop people with traumatic brain injury. There was a girl that would get into so many seizures that she would hit her head, and one more can basically kill her. But this dog was able to it had an inherent innate ability to help her from hitting her head. So they purposely took this natural ability and they increased it and they nurtured it. So now this woman can live. Oh, and the name is Colt, by the way. The name is Colt. But he has the ability to, if she goes into a seizure, he will, and this is also my social feed, so you can check that out. He will go and wiggle his way underneath between the floor and her head. So she has a cushion, a buffer, and uses his own body to stop her from having major seizures. Now, also too, you can follow him, and his Twitter handle is @ServiceDogCult, so you can check it out. But this dog is amazing. So now, as all of you know, I give a lot of credit to our four-leggeds and our winged ones. And I give a lot of credit to the non-human. Sometimes they act more human than we do. But I give a lot of credit to all of us because really, we're all part of the world and we all have to do a lot, right? And welcome, Anna. Welcome to the broadcast. Hey. Yes, and I'll tell you, this dog, Colt, is just amazing. And I will tell you that, as I've mentioned before, animals are just amazing spirits. But we have the ability, if some, and I believe that they're sentient. I believe that they're very sentient beings. You know, I believe that they're very sentient beings as well. Now, also too, our producer, our lovely producer is Ariel, by the way. Except if Dawn is in here too, she might be. She pops in from time to time. She's a very dear polish director. She was my original creative polish director, and so that's all good. And still and always will be in memoriam of being absolutely amazing. So yeah, one of the important of Team Insight and the inner Insight tribe for sure. Absolutely. So now looking at this, now just the example of Pascal and Colt, a lot of people, they have this ability to move past their adversity. And a lot of it is through the power of their mind. So now, if you really think about it, it doesn't make any sense to think about the negative or give too much power to the negative. Because the shadow self has a way of making things happen no different than your other self. And you need both to survive. You need both. Absolutely. So now looking at that, using the power of yourself, of your mind, of taking the next step to the next level of who you are, that's really important. Now, say for example, someone right here in the broadcast, I'm not going to single them out, did something very bold. Did something very bold and something she would have never ever done, but she did it. And I commend her for that. And without getting into details, people going, what is that? Because we're naturally voyeuristic and nosy. But I also remember someone recently that I spoke to that chopped off a good chunk of their hair and gave it to locks of love as well. And they purposely they grew their hair a lot, much longer to give it to locks of love. So I have a lot of respect for people that really go above and beyond, whether it's a baby step or whether it's a big, huge leap to do something to make change. And that's really part of what we do here. And that's part of why we do what we do. Part of why I'm here every week, you know. And it's not just the fact of, you know, loving what I do, but it's also sharing the message and sharing people's stories and sharing people's experiences as well. To me, I think that's really, really important. So what are other ways that we can go ahead and change things with our mind? You can verbally speak to yourself. And I know some people might think that's terrible or bad, or may think you're crazy, but it's actually important to do so. There are times where I've had things that were really going on and I was like, you know what, I'm better than this. What am I thinking? I'm better than this situation. I can get past this. And sure enough, the situation shifted that quickly, instantaneously. And why did it do that? A lot of it was just because of focusing on that thought at that moment, flipping the negative to the positive, making that statement that's actually going to propel me further, into the positive, into a light situation, then into a deeper, darker situation. And this is not always easy, because unfortunately we will, you know, you do contain and absorb this negative energy and these thoughts into your own body if you're not careful. So this is also a big part of it as well. Think of it this way. Your mind is like the gardener, and you have your seeds of thought, your seeds of whatever criticism, things that you go through, things that people say, things that you hear, all that inner chatter or chatter you hear from outside. And you hear these things. And you hear these things in such a way where you either choose to own it, believe it, want it, see it, or not. Now, I can honestly say I appreciate and I'm very grateful to a lot of people, especially recently, because I have received a lot of affirming people reaching out and sending a lot of affirming thoughts and well wishes, despite not fully knowing everything that's going on. And interestingly enough, sometimes you learn a lot about yourself when someone else describes you, even if you're not sure, even if you didn't ask, even if it wasn't solicited. So there's a lot of great reminders of why I'm here and why I do what I do. And I want to say, I want to personally thank, on this broadcast, personally thank all of you that have reached out and have said all the kind words and all the good juju that you've sent and all of that. I really, really appreciate that. Now, that shifted my brain and my mind and my thought to more positive things. So henceforth, why the topic of today being the power of the mind and the power of you are what you think, because ultimately you are what you think. If you think you're useless, you will be. If you think you're amazing, you are. If you think that you can't get past things another minute. You're right. Now, I'm going to disagree with you because I believe that, we are unlimited beings, of course. Me being the unruly sod that I am. I can't help it. I can't help but to be the unruly spirit that's going to be saying, but no, I will not own this. I will not keep this. This is not mine. But I will have to say, you have to own what truly is yours. Don't fool yourself. What is yours, own it. Whether it's an action, whether it's something you said, own it. But don't own other people's stuff either, right? So you have to own your stuff, not other things that you have no control over, other things that aren't yours to own up to. That's the part of being vigilant and mindful. And henceforth, why we have this topic today, the power of mind and being mindful. I've mentioned mindfulness so often in my broadcasts because ultimately you can have the choice. You can have the choice of being a blissful zombie, just let things pass and let things go and let things happen, or you can make a decision. Now, there's an expression and there's a saying that I live by, and the saying is, we may not be able to control the wind, but we can alter and adjust the direction of our sails. That's paraphrasing. I think it's a more succinct way of saying it, but we cannot control nature. We cannot control everything that's going to happen in our lives. We can't. But one thing we can do is how we deal with it, how we cope with it, how we think about it, how we process it through our vast, incredible processes of our mind. Because we are more than just a heart and a liver and a set of kidneys. We are more than just blood vessels. We are so much more than that. There's a deep within us, there's a spark inside us that makes us go further, achieve more, be better. And that spark is what powers everything. And if you really think about it, in our brain, we have that synapse. We have those little energy synapses that connect and fire. That's a physical thing that happens. Now, that spark has to come from somewhere. And it comes from deep within us. They're trying to measure the soul, and they believe it's 7 grams. But also, too, that spark is what brings us to where we need to be. It propels us to our bigger and better selves. It makes us who we're meant to be. So my question for you and my challenge for you this week is, who are you meant to be? Who are you supposed to be? Are you supposed to be the person that's supposed to sit there and accept everything and not make any change? Or are you supposed to challenge your own mind, your own spark, and say, look, I'm going to listen to that spark. I'm going to listen to my inner self and push myself and propel myself further out and out of my comfort zone. There are so many people that I know that push themselves out of their comfort zone, and I applaud you. I embrace that because, some people have had the choice of being out of their comfort zones, and some people have had no choice on being in our comfort zones. I can tell you I haven't had much of a choice. Follower, I am not. Leader, I am not. Maybe a reluctant or hesitant one. There is another saying that I could use. It's do not walk in front of me, I may not follow. Do not walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and be my friend. Now, that's crazy profound stuff, right? So yeah, even leaders can be hesitant, resistant leaders of the resistance, of the not so popular movement. And I happen to be one of those people. So like I said, I applaud all of the wild ones, the black sheep, the unruly ones, the people that are rebels, the people that go beyond, above and beyond who they are. They consider what possibilities are around the corner, or as someone in this broadcast would appreciate, what's around the river bend. Yes, that's a Disney reference. And as Anna's saying here, eagles, bears, and wolves are not ones for following blindly, and it's right. And it's true. So ultimately, this was an interesting topic and a kind of a crazy topic in a way. But I believe everything is meant for a reason. So just know these challenges that you have, these challenges that are put in your face, these adversities that are put in your way, they're not necessarily for you to own, but they're there for you to conquer. They're there for you to get better and be better. So whether you have to dig underneath it, find a way around it, or climb over it, do it. Because 9 out of 10, there may be something creepy on the other side, but there also could be something absolutely amazing and breathtaking. The view may be incredible on the other side of this challenge or adversity. So, on that note, I want to thank you all so much for spending time with me here on Inside with Moonshadow. You are all my inspiration, and without all your good juju and your well wishes and thoughts and prayers, I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be doing what I do. So I want to thank you all for being part of my tribe. If you feel guided to support me in any way, in any or every way, oh, welcome, Savannah. Feel free to follow my social media. You can find it in the description, job description. I was just thinking about work for a second. You can look at the channel description as well as looking on my website, which is phoenixrisinghealingarts.com or moonphoenixrising.com. I'm on pretty much every social platform, and also too, you can click on the upper right-hand corner over there. Boop, 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 boop. It's not there right now, but magically it's going to be there if it's not there already. And you can click on that to find out all of the information on who I am, what I do, where I'm going, and everything that makes Moon tick, or mostly everything. Got to hold something back. But also too, before I end the broadcast completely and totally, this is the last broadcast of this week here on the East Coast. I will be next week. I will be on the West Coast. I'm not sure where I will be. More than likely, I will be broadcasting from somewhere in Nevada. However, you never know. There's a lot of things in the works coming up with Insight, with Moonshadow, and I appreciate you all for being here and getting on the bus, even though, or jumping in the canoe, or whatever you want to call it, whatever is your favorite vehicle, your hovercraft if you're scientifically or advanced. Thank you for enjoying the ride, because there are a lot of new things that are coming up. Also, too, if you have not signed up on the survey for about merchandise with Moonshadow, you can find that also in the description, the channel description, or the show description down below. So, as always, you guys are awesome, and know that from the bottom of my heart. And as always, be strong, be amazing, be you. Thank you so much for all of you being here. See you next week from a different time zone, a different place, and on the West Coast. Take care.